players who, again, if you watch the Open Series a healthy amount, you're probably familiar with both of them. Both have some accomplishments on their own right. But we've got Jund on one side, we've got Elves on the other. So you've got basically a deck that has a ton of removal versus a combo deck that tries to kill with creatures.
Yeah, and it basically comes down to whether or not Thea can get that punishing fire going and really can keep some of those creatures under control. But does she have punishing fire? It looks like she's playing the traditional gen version.
She's without punishing fire. Wow, I haven't seen this for a little while. So she has, for a spell, she's got Liliana, she's got Hymn to Torak, Thoughtseize, Lightning Bolt, Abrupt Decay, a single Gargari Charm, a Sylvan Library, and Maelstrom Pulse. Her creatures are Dark Confidant, Deathrite Shaman, Tarmogoyf, and Bloodbraid Elf. She does not have punishing fire plus Grove, which is a little bit surprising.
It's going to be tough for her to pull off game one, I think, just because one, she's on the draw, which is already a tough spot to be in, and two, it's really hard to one-for-one a deck like Elves because they have a lot of tricky cards that make removal very difficult.
I start with the Lightning Bolt to take care of Nettle Sentinel. So, of course, you're just going to want to point and click and kill a lot of things here. But the Elves deck is actually pretty resilient because once a lot of the Elves are dead, you can combo together Wirewood Symbiote and Elvish Visionary and kind of catch back up.
Yeah.
Especially when there's no punishing fire plus Grove looming.
And I'm not quite sure she needed to kill the Nettle Sentinel there. I think a lot of people just assume that's a card you have to get rid of the board. But Wirewood Symbiote's a much more important card. I think she could maybe wait a turn and see, what Matt's playing there. Obviously, if he has a card like Gaia's Cradle, you'd want to kill it right away. But I think it's worth the risk just to see. Maybe if he plays a Wirewood Symbiote, then you want to kind of go after that instead. But we'll see how this game plays out. Looks like Thea drew another removal spell in Abrupt Decay, but she's going to lead with a Thoughtseize first.
So here's a hand of Elvish Visionary, Deathrite Shaman, and a Verdant Catacomb. So obviously Nass has taken a mulligan or two this particular game. Of those choices, I kind of just want to take Visionary.
Yeah, I think you have to just take Visionary. You don't want him to get another creature. And cantrip creatures are kind of annoying for Jund. So I agree. I think I would take the Visionary here. Deathrite Shaman's not that big of a deal. He already has two lands in play and another in his hand, so it's not like ramp is really going to matter.
It really depends on the hand, though, because if you caught a glimpse at Steele's hand, she has a copy of Maelstrom Pulse there, so she can two for one with the Pulse to take care of both.
But again, they both cantrip, so it's not even a 2-for-1 really. He's just going to be able to cycle a little bit more. And it looks like Thea missed a land drop too, so that Maelstrom Pulse is going to be stranded in her hand for a while.
Well, maybe she did a little bit of mulliganing before the game began as well.
Yeah, it looks like both players probably mulliganed. And it looks like Matt does have we're going to get a Wirewood Symbiote here.
That would not surprise me at all.
So yes, that's exactly what's going to. And then this is one of the reasons I think you want to hold on to that Lightning Bolt, because that card is just so difficult for a one-for-one removal deck like Jund to deal with. You really have to go after it. So Matt does get a Wirewood Symbiote into play, despite mulliganing to 5. Not so bad for Matt right here. And it looks like Thea did mulligan to 6 in this game.
Draws a land finally in Verdant Catacombs. So see what she does have to follow up with. He has a Tarmogoyf hanging out over there. Not sure if he has any more removal or not.
Looks like she has a Hymn to Torak. I think she might want to just try to Hymn here. Get rid of the Visionary in Matt's hand, and then maybe Abrupt Decay the following turn.
Okay, so there's the Bayou.
That will give Matt a turn to get that Visionary combo going. At least get another draw off of Visionary. Let's see what they decide to do here. I think Matt only has one card in his hand.
I believe that's the case.
And it's the Visionary. So let's say with Thea leads here, does she lead with the Hymn to Torak or Abrupt Decay? So yep, she's going to deal with that Wired Symbiote right away.
You got to get that thing off the table.
Yeah, I like that play. You just want to kill it right away. Oh,
no, she's bouncing that in response so we can get a card.
Yeah, got it. So we're going to get a sack here from Matt. Might go for the Dryad Arbor here.
I expect the Arbor to turn on to make Cradle better, assuming that he does draw one. It's pretty safe to get one of these out here right now.
Yeah.
Again, there is a Golgari Charm looming in Thea Steele's main deck, so if she is able to find that, it can be a pretty big blowout, but I don't think she has that right now.
Yeah. So this is a good situation for Thea if she draws another land, because then if Matt does presumably get both those Visionaries in play, like you said, she get Maelstrom Pulse. Not huge for her, but still, getting those creatures off the board important.
And Matt did draw a Gaia's Cradle for the turn, so getting the Arbor ends up working out quite well for him. And Cradle it's unbelievable in this deck.
Yes.
It's absolutely busted.
And now we're going to see probably Cradle come down, and I think he drew another one-drop Elf possibly. Or no, he's just going to pass the turn. Okay.
Wow.
Doesn't want to commit too much to the board.
Well, that means a Hymn could be a big game right here.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that he drew a Cradle. I could be wrong about that. Maybe he's trying to set up for a bigger turn.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It seems strange he wouldn't commit more creatures to the board if he did draw Cradle, but let's see here. Him to Torok.
Oh, well, we're about to find out. Here's a Him
We
to
could
Torok.
see a Him to Torok followed up by a Wasteland. Thea did draw a Wasteland for the turn.
So a little random roll here.
That's the card he's going to get to keep, and he's going to have to oh, no.
We'll do 2 rolls. I like your method, though.
So he's going to discard a Visionary and a
And a
Cradle.
Cradle,
So, yeah,
yep.
he did draw the Visionary. He did draw a Cradle off that turn, and that's a huge turn for Thea. She gets rid of a very important card in Matt's deck.
And that's probably why he was holding it, because he has Fear of Wasteland, but everything ends up working out poorly for the Elves player. So all he can do is attack for one, with the Visionary. There's a Dryad Arbor, there's an Elf Sentinel, so now he's on the beatdown plan.
Not a bad plan to be on, but unfortunately, Thea does have a Tarmogoyf, which can come down and put a stop to that nonsense.
And that's what Tarmogoyf's gonna do. We'll find out how big it is. We'll get our Tarmogoyf dice out for you guys at home.
Oh, that might have been a really good draw from Matt. It might have been a Symbiote. Let's see.
Did it.
And it is.
Yep.
So here we go. Matt, back on top of things, going to be able to draw a card off of Elvish Visionary this turn if he wants to. Thea does have another answer for the Symbiote in Lightning Bolt.
I'll tell you
and
that
she
Elves
still has
deck
that Maelstrom Pulse in her
deck
hand.
is so resilient.
Yeah, it's really just the Ranger and the Wirewood Symbiote could be very frustrating for a removal deck.
I'll take a draw.
Looks like he drew maybe a land. Wants to get that into play. Yep.
That's a Verdant Catacombs and pass the turn back. So he's already used one Dryad Arbor and the other one's in his graveyard.
Yeah.
So no more of those.
No more Dryad Arbors to get. So it looks like Thea has a Him to Torok. Not very effective here. She does have a Lightning Bolt, so she can take out that Wirewood Symbiote.
Got to do it. Got to keep that thing off the board at all times. Pick up the Elvish Visionary again. We'll see if she has maybe a discard spell. She's going to pass the turn back. So Tarmogoyf is a glorified wall right now.
And Matt just has the Behemoths in the play. He doesn't have a main deck Progenitus, so a top deck Natural Order won't be just game for him. Obviously, Jund has a tough time dealing with Progenitus, but he can't do that game 1. Crater of Behemoth, obviously a good card to get, but I don't think it would kill Thea this turn. And so Matt's going to need a little more help. He does have a Visionary, so it's going to let him draw another card. So just keep trying to scrape together a little army here.
That's what the deck does. It always seems like it's just scraping together a little bit of pieces, and then all of a sudden it just explodes and just you're dead somehow.
Yeah, and the thing is, he has Kyrian Ranger, Wirewood Symbiote. He also has 4 Green Sun Zenith to find them, so it's you just get through. You see a lot of cards with this deck, despite the fact that there's no blue cards in it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually. So he's going to sacrifice a fetch land and then cast the Visionary, take a land out of his deck, make it so that he can draw a better card, run the numbers, as it were.
Really wants a Green Sun Zenith here or another Ranger Symbiote. Let's see what he gets. Draws a card.
Looks like a Nettle.
Looks like a Nettle, yeah. Again, though, every creature he draws is going to make a top deck Natural Order lethal, so it's not the worst thing, but let's see. Thea does draw a Wasteland. That's good. It could take out a Dryad Arbor and effectively keeping another creature off the board.
Yeah, the question, does she want that third land, though? Because she's had that Maelstrom Pulse in her hand forever. Could just cast a Him here.
Yeah, get rid of that one card.
Yeah,
it is a Nettle.
Okay.
Probably would have died to Maelstrom Pulse anyway, so.
Actually, probably better off that he didn't play it.
Yep.
And I think he just drew a Nettle this turn again. Okay, it looks like I'm
time.
wrong.
Nope. No,
Zenith
there's
for
it.
one.
There it is. So Zenith is going to get a carry. Another Wirewood Symbiote should enter play now.
No matter how hard you try, you can't stop Matt Nass from drawing cards.
Green Sun Zenith keeps getting shuffled in, too. It's not like you're losing those cards.
It seems like there's 20 of them in the deck, and you have to kill it every time.
So he's going to be able to untap Dryad Arbor and then tap it again to recast Wirewood Elvish Visionary. Get another card here. And it looks like it might have been a land. Master's going to have to pass the turn back. I don't know if Thea has an answer for this Wirewood.
She's got a Pulse in her hand.
She does have the Pulse,
so she'll have to use that to take care of that.
She drew a Thought Seize, so yeah, it looks like she's going to have to Pulse this turn. He will be able to bounce Visionary yet again, get another cantrip. So Thea's really trying her best to keep Matt from drawing cards, but it is a struggle. So here we go. Maelstrom Pulse takes out Wirewood Symbiote. We're going to bounce Visionary again. And one Wirewood Symbiote left in the deck. Let's see if Thea can dodge it this
poor
game.
Tarmogoyf. It never gets to attack.
It is a good blocker.
It is. Borchler Rangers was the draw here for Nass, so they're going to start.
Oh, Glimpse. Okay, so here we go. Great card there for Matt. He does have the Visionary. Now we're going to see Ranger come down.
This is exactly what we're talking about. You see Thea's taking a look at Birchler Rangers. We'll bring it up on our end as well. So you can see this is an Onslaught common.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it does have Morph.
It has Morph.
Yeah.
And it's basically a smaller version of Heritage Druid. Heritage Druid, obviously, you tap 3 elves to generate 3 mana. Birchler Ranger, you tap 2 elves and you generate any color mana. So It's going to let him to keep casting spells. He's going to cast Elvish Visionary, and the cool thing about Virtual Rangers is with Nettle Sentinel, you can basically get an extra mana each time. So Matt can chain. If he keeps drawing creatures, he's going to have a nice little chain right here. So let's see how this works out for him. And there's the Heritage Druid.
And it's funny because he started this turn off, I think, with just one card in his hand, just the.
Yep.
He had the glimpse. He had the glimpse, and then he picked up the Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, he had the glimpse. And he bounced the Visionary last turn, and then he drew the Ranger.
Yeah.
So.
But this is what I'm talking about with the explosiveness of this deck, where it's like, what does he do in this game? Really nothing.
No.
He didn't do really anything that was busted or crazy, or now he's casting Zeniths, now he's untapping Nettle Sentinels, now he's generating a bunch of mana. He might go for another Nettle Sentinel here to keep this chain going. Now he's drawing cards with every creature that he casts, and all of a sudden you got Creator of Behemoth looming, and he's going to get the 4th Wirewood Symbiote, like we haven't seen this happen before, and now he just starts going into overdrive. And if there's one thing you know about Nass, is that this is how he actually came onto the scene. Is that he won an extended, I'm using, that's like a swear word, because we don't even have that form anymore, but he won an extended Grand Prix in Oakland back in 2009, 2010, around that time, with Elves, when everyone was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And Luis is like, he just plays a Channel Fireball. It's not a big deal, just some kid.
Definitely very familiar with this deck. And, like we said in the beginning of the match, it's very difficult for Jun to beat Elves game 1 because they don't have a lot of mass removal effects. And that's really the way you beat Elves. You can't just try to 1-for-1 them because it's too difficult fighting through all those Wirewood Symbiotes and Kieran Rangers.
So now he has, of course, a bunch of mana in his mana pool, and he's drawing a card with every creature that is cast. So he's not going to draw a card off of off of Green Sun Zenith. He'll actually draw 2 off of Elvish Visionary. But he's got some mana floating. He can do a bunch of different things. I think the question right now is, what creature did not have summoning sickness? Which one was safe and came into play this turn?
Well, the thing is, he does have 2 Nettle Sentinels in play, so he can basically just keep generating mana that way if he wants to keep casting spells. He might be just comfortable getting a bunch of creatures in play, and like you said, and like I said, there's not a lot of wrath spells that he has to dodge out of. Obviously, Golgari Charm would be pretty good here, but it wouldn't be devastating because you still have 2 Nettle Sentinels in play. You can bounce something with your Kieran Range, with your Wirewood Symbiote. So let's see what he tries. I don't think he can win this turn.
He might be able to. I mean, right now he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures in play. I mean, Behemoth is a 5/5.
8 with the
Dryad Arbor, sure.
Well.
So he's got a million creatures in play, and Behemoth is only going to get bigger. And again, he's going to be able to generate so much mana that Behemoth could very easily just be a 20/20 that's attacking.
Yeah, if he has the natural order, I don't know if he has the natural order.
I know he has the Behemoth in his hand right now.
Oh, okay.
And I think he's going to have the ability to generate more than enough mana to get there because of 2 Nettle Sentinels, and if he ever does find the 3rd one.
Okay, so he does have a natural order too. Does he have? He's going to generate 3 mana here. Does he have a Birchler Ranger? He needs like a 1-drop elf basically to lock things up. If he has a 1-drop elf, then I think he's good. Or he might even have 4 mana already. Let's see here. Nettle Sentinel was one of the creatures that was in play. It will untap when you cast Natural Order. So, yep, Natural Order is going to untap both Nettle Sentinels. He's going to sack the Dryad Arbor to get a Crater of Behemoth. And that should be lethal here because the Nettle Sentinel and the Crater of Behemoth will be able to attack this turn.
And he plays 2 Crater of Behemoths where some versions only have 1. And so, hoof, there it is. Trigger, beatdowns. For how much? Who knows?
6, 7, 8, 9, 18, 25 damage.
That's it.
That's it. So Tarmogoyf can only soak up 5 of that, and Thea Steele loses game 1 to Matt Nass's Elf deck.
It's not even fair. The Tarmogoyf never even got to block anything. That's not fair,
true.
man. It was always there, ready to block.
One of the best creatures ever printed resorted just to being a roadblock, basically.
I like how the mono green deck. There's no Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
No need.
Not good enough.
Yeah.
Not quite good enough.
Simply not good enough for Matt Nass. So we'll take a look at the sideboards here. I got Thea Steele's in front of me. So she's going to need some removal. She actually needs to start off with more than 1 land as well. So 1 Chain of Mephistopheles. This is a coverage nightmare, this card.
No one likes that card.
Yeah, no one likes this card. Judges hate it. Coverage hates it. Opposing players hate it. Luckily, it's not for this matchup. It's good against Brainstorms and Jaces. Matt Nass doesn't have any of those. 3 copies of Pyroblast, 2 Duress, a Thorn of Amethyst, 2 Nile Spellbomb, a Grim Lavamancer, Pernicious Deed, Numazawa's Jite, a Massacre, an Ancient Grudge, and a Life from the Limb. So Massacre, Jite, Pernicious Deed, and Grim Lavamancer are the easy ones. Thorn of Amethyst is actually quite poor in Zel's decks because it makes non-creature spells cost 1 more. And then, Duress is like a discard effect, and there are a healthy amount of spells in this deck, actually. But I don't think it's particularly good in this matchup, but I don't think you want to have 6 discard spells after sideboard in addition to your 4 Thought Seizes, and I really think that's about it.
Yeah, there's not much else I'd want to bring in. I think those 4 are pretty much the highest impact in this matchup, and that's pretty much what I think, board in for this matchup.
How about on Nass's side?
On Nass's side, He's got some interesting options. He's got a natural order. I think I like bringing in the fourth natural order here because he also has one copy of Progenitus in the sideboard, which obviously can come in, but he also has one copy of World Spine Worm, which is a
Ooh.
card that you don't see very often, but it's quite effective against decks like Jund because it's a 15/15, and even if they do kill it, you get a bunch of tokens, and it's basically that's the card you want to go for in this matchup because even though you can get a Progenitus, if you don't have any other creatures in play, Progenitus could end up dying to a Liliana the Veil. So if you have the option and you don't have any other creatures in play to protect it, World Spine Worm is pretty much going to be game against Jund. Obviously, there's ways for them to beat it, but it's very difficult to beat a World Spine Worm.
Yeah.
He has 4 copies of Cabal Therapy, 2 Thoughtseize, 3 Abrupt Decay, along with a Scavenging Ooze, a Gaddock Teague, and a Quasali Pride Mage. Honestly, I don't think he really wants to bring in much more than maybe just the World Spine Worm and maybe the Progenitus and the 4th Natural Order. In his main deck, you don't want to dilute your main deck very much. All the elves clearly are important. He does have 2 copies of a Gataxian Probe in his deck, which is a card you don't see in many elf decks. But it's pretty solid. It gives you a lot of information. It's a cantrip. And for a combo deck in particular, it's great to know, to have perfect information so you can know when you can go off, when it's safe to go off, when you have to be a little more cautious. So Gataxian Probe is one of those cards that I don't know if he maybe cuts them after board in some matchups. Maybe he wants to just play more high impact spells. You don't really need to have perfect information in this matchup because there are certain things you can do where Jund really just can't do anything about it anyway, like natural order. So maybe he might cut those Gataxian Probes just for a 4th natural order and a World Spine Worm. But I think Matt's kind of comfortable with his deck, with his main deck in this matchup. So I don't see him changing very much.
Now, part of the reason that Elves actually came back onto the radar, this year basically, was at the start of the year in Grand Prix Denver. The first Legacy tournament of the year. Matt Nass and Luis Scott Vargas actually played Elves at that tournament. And while, I think they may have both min-cast or something like that, top 64, what have you, everyone was like, man, this actually looks like a pretty good deck for what people are trying to do with Bug and Jund and all of this other stuff. And it has really picked up since then. We've seen Reed Duke when it opened with it, when you and I were in Philadelphia, actually, covering the Legacy Open there. And we've just seen a lot of players, Chris Anderson, a lot of, Legacy players playing Elves to a lot of success. And this arguably might be the best Elves player. Chris Anderson is quite good with elves, but again, Matt Nass, he became a household name off of combo elves in Oakland. And from there, he's been playing elves ever since. And, the iterations for him are super, super easy. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that he's playing against a deck that has a lot of removal. This is not the first time he's had to do that.
Yeah, and we were talking about it earlier. You mentioned, who are players that you identify with certain decks. Matt Nass would definitely be someone I identify with elves. He's played it to a lot of success, knows the in and outs. And in Legacy, this is where you kind of see these certain archetype experts. You know what I mean? Like Adam Prozac with Ant or Storm, Jerry Thompson with Bug. There are certain players who just play the same deck. Huey Jensen with Show and Tell. So there's a lot of players, particularly in Legacy, who find a certain archetype very, very powerful, and they just play it over and over and over again because there's really no reason to keep metagaming week in and week out. If your deck is very powerful and has this particular goal, there's really no reason. Maybe you'll change 1 or 2 cards here and there, but powerful strategies don't really need to be altered week in and week out.
Tay's going to start her turn by sacrificing a Wooded Foottail. It's going to go down to 19, so the game is even. I'll put that in quotes. And we'll see what she's going to find here. There is a bio.
Some nice beta lands there.
I know.
Very nice.
I know. I'm a touch jealous, I'm not going to lie. I wish I had nice betas.
So we're going to see here, maybe, I'm not sure what, Dark Confidant would be a great turn here. Let's see what she has. And there it is, Dark Confidant. So that is one of the ways that she can kind of keep up with the elves by 1-for-1ing her, kind of reload her hand a little bit. Again, not having access to Punishing Fire this is one of the matchups where you really wish you had it, but let's see what Thea can put together here. Obviously, the mass removal effects like Pernicious Deed and Massacre are going to play a role. But Umezawa Jite is another card that can be quite difficult for Matt's deck to deal with.
So those are scenarios where Nass is going to start, draws a Windswept Heath off of that.
Wow, so great turn here because he has the Gaia's Cradle too, and the Symbiote.
That's a great turn. I mean, we saw how he's going to bounce. Is he going to bounce this right now?
He can bounce. He has enough mana because he had 3 mana in his pool because of the Dry Harbor.
That's awesome.
Oh, jeez. No, did he? Did he have enough mana? I don't think he had enough mana, right? Because he The Elvish Visionary and the Dryad Arbor, that means Gaia's Cradle tap for 2. Oh, the Wirewood, it untaps a land.
Yep.
Untaps
Okay,
a land,
got it.
yep. So Matt Nass is able to, it's a pretty good turn from
I wonder
Matt.
who knows more about elves, him or us.
Probably
He
knows,
him.
yeah.
He's like, does he have enough mana? It's just like second nature. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've done this a million times. Bounce that, replay, draw a card, go. And Taya's probably like, do you have enough mana? He's like, yeah.
So Thea draws the 1 of Pernicious Deed that she brought in here. That's going to be huge because that can wipe out Matt's board, make his Cradle ineffective. Plus, it can deal with the Dryad Arbor as well.
Mm-hmm. So Bolt's going to take care of the symbiote. And as you mentioned, now he's going to take care of the Cradle too. So this is a really good turn for Thea. As you had mentioned, Bob is like the one way that she gets to keep pace.
Mm-hmm.
And now Bob is going to come into the red zone, willing to trade with the Dryad Arbor. I actually like this attack.
Yeah.
Set him back to stage 1.
I think I would have attacked first, though, and then used the Wasteland, because you don't want to give Matt information. Because there's a chance if he does trade there, then you go after the Bayou.
Okay.
So I think maybe, I like attacking there, but I think I would have attacked first, then used the Wasteland.
And she does have a backup Bob in her hand right now as well. So I can certainly see an argument for exactly what you're mentioning right now. Is there's an Elvish Visionary, 1 swap teeth, going to put Nass down to 18.
Yeah, so again, Thea does have access to Pernicious Deed, but Matt's so good with elves that he could sort of craft a situation where he doesn't really need to commit too much to the board until he just plans on going off in 1 turn like he did last game.
And for Pernicious Deed too, it's a card where you kind of want to play it and blow it up all in the same turn. So it's really a 5-mana spell in this matchup. Now, of course, Nass is going to be aware that because of Trinity Nemesis, people are going to be trying to kill 1-toughness creatures.
Yeah.
So Golgari Charm is the thing that people are doing nowadays. Other -1/-1 effects. Deed basically plays that role in this matchup. So I don't think she's ever going to get the opportunity to really catch Matt off guard. Toxic Deluge, another card that does the exact same thing that John would have access to. So we'll see exactly how he ends up playing it and how Steele decides to play the Pernicious Deed as well.
Oh, and it looks like Matt did bring in Abrupt Decay, and he's able to attack for 1. Abrupt Decay may be coming in to deal with Engineered Plague. He doesn't know exactly what Thea has in her sideboard, but obviously Engineered Plague, a huge card out of Jund against the Elves matchup. Obviously, Matt doesn't know that she doesn't have any Abrupt Engineered Plagues in her sideboard, but either way, maybe a little hedge there for Matt. And it's never going to be dead. It could always kill, obviously, Deathrite Shaman's Tarmogoyf.
It's true. It's true.
Dark Confidants, as we just saw.
Yeah. Heritage Druid, the draw step here for Nass, so see if he can do anything funky this turn. Gonna start by casting. This is just the most annoying card. How is Elvish Visionary the most annoying card ever?
It's the powerhouse.
Yeah, every time he gets cast, like,
Straight up powerhouse.
Draw a card.
So now Matt's just, slowly going to be chipping away at her life total with these weenies, and not really committing too much to the board. He can't get blown out by massive removal effects because he keeps, he's playing very carefully here. He does get a Heritage Druid out there. Let's see what he decides to do, if he's going to do a lot with his mana this turn.
Looks like Steele's going to have a response. Abrupt Decay, take care of your Visionary.
Okay, so that's...
In response to the Druid.
You don't want to do that, but at the same time, she might be afraid Matt just goes off this turn. So, little card disadvantage there for Thea. And all of this card disadvantage just adds up for Matt eventually and gives him a little edge in the long game.
Deathrite Shaman, the draw here.
Not a great draw for Thea there. Let's see if she wants to try to get that Pernicious Deed into play, or is she going to try to hold off 1 more turn? Obviously, Pernicious Deed for 1 isn't that bad. It deals a Heritage Druid and kills the Dryad Arbor. But, yeah, it looks like she's going to get that Deathrite Shaman out there. And if she has to, she could kill the Deathrite Shaman next turn. It depends on how much Matt decides to commit to his board next turn.
And she just looks like she's trying to work her way towards her Pernicious Deed. Nass does have a Crater of Behemoth in his hand right now. Not sure the rest of the contents right now, as he's going to untap here, and he's threatening to, again, generate a ton of mana with that Heritage Druid.
Yeah, it looks like he has a Quasali Pride Mage in his hand. Again, another hedge against Engineer Plague, as well as Umezawa Jite.
Yep.
So Matt definitely playing a game where he's like, I'm gonna grind out the match, and I'm gonna make sure I don't lose to anything in specific, like Umezawa Jite or Engineer Plague.
It must be nice to have a tribal deck that doesn't care about Engineered Plague. Yeah. That's really got to be a good feeling. As here's a Deathrite Shaman. 3 green mana is gonna go into the pool.
And we're going to have a Green Sun Zenith here for 2.
2 or 1. I have a feeling it might be 1.
It's a 1. Okay, so gets a Wirewood Symbiote here, and now we're going to start seeing a party with Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, that darn Elvish Visionary. Doing what it does.
So Thea does have the Pernicious Deed, so she could deal with both the Wirewood Symbiote, Heritage Druid, as long with Deathrite Shaman and Dryad Arbor. So we could see a pretty good turn for Thea.
If she can make it.
She can make it the next turn,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's going to be the hard part
But
here.
again, though, Matt's playing this game so well that even he's never going to get totally blown out by any of these cards. It looks like he's going to be able. He's crafting a very careful board state here.
He's doing a really nice job of pacing the game.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I like, is he's never overcommitting too much. That, again, we have access to Thea Steele's deck list, and we've already told you guys about it, that there is Golgari Charm here, but, there's not engineered play. There's a Pernicious Deed in her hand. She does have access to a Massacre in her sideboard. So she does have some Master Removal-esque effects, and he's doing a really nice job of just pacing and playing around those. So that, again, he gets another Wirewood Symbiote, so if something were to happen to his guys, he can just pick up 2 of them and just rebuild again. It's really, really just nice, safe play here from Nass.
Yeah, so even, let's, if we do get a Pernicious Deed for 1 here, he basically just loses 2 Wirewood Symbiotes and a Dryad Arbor, and,
Won't even lose the Arbor. Can't kill lands.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I think the Pernicious Deed would die. The Pernicious Deed can kill.
Did it kill lands?
Yeah. It kills all. Sacrifice the Pernicious, destroy each artifact. Artifact creature and enchantment,
okay,
which it is. It will
got
kill it. It's not like Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, yeah. And then there is the deed.
Yeah, so Thea, it does look like Thea is just going to try to do it for 1 here. Does she have a land, maybe?
Well, she got Deathrite to be able to generate, but she won't be able to do it for 2, really.
Yeah, she can't do it for 2. Looks like we are going to see an activation for 1, though.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I think Thea loses out on this deal.
Yeah, I think she does, too. And you can tell the way she's kind of grabbing the cards from the graveyard, she's like, well, I have to do this. It's not great, but I don't have much of a choice.
I got to slow him down because I could just lose the game next turn. So, yep, Matt's going to bounce some creatures, and he's going to lose everything else.
Yeah, he's going to save a Deathrite and a Visionary. He's going to lose the rest of his board. But again, he's got so many cards in his hand. Steele's stuck on 3 lands.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It looks devastating because he lost 4 creatures, but really it's not that big a deal. It just means he's got to start over. But he's fine with that. And and I was going to say, if he draws a Cradle, suddenly everything just comes out in 1 turn.
Trouble is brewing. I put the combo back together of Wirewood Symbiote.
Let's get the band back together.
Now here's a Cradle. It's going to tap for 3 green. He's going to return this. He's going to play this. And again, this is super, super careful play of just never, ever, ever putting too much into play. So a Master Removal spell just doesn't end the game.
Yeah, and he still has a Glimpse and a Green Sun Zenith in his hand, along with that Quasali Pride Mage. So things looking pretty good for Mr. Nass right here. Thea's stuck on 3 mana still. Can't really do much.
And the one thing is, you can just tell how comfortable he is with everything that he's doing here. Like, he's been doing this for years because, really, realistically, he has been. But he just seems so at home as here comes a Dark Confidant and Deathrite Shaman that don't really have much of an effect on the game. And now she has to pass the turn, shields down, and now he gets to go bonkers.
Matt is going to do something really, really horrible this turn. I don't know what, but it's going to be pretty devastating.
He's going to start by drawing a card, and it's another Cradle.
It's going to be terrible. It is going to be something very, very impressive. Matt will do something terribly impressive this turn. I know it.
Buckle up. It's about to get ugly. He's going to start with a Green Sun Zenith for a modest 2. We'll see what he's going to get here.
So we're going to get a Visionary.
I have a sinking feeling we're not going to play another turn this game.
I feel like the game will end this turn for Matt.
He's going to add 4 mana to the mana pool, play another Cradle. That's going to add 4 more. There's a Cradle Behemoth.
Did it? Yep.
Yeah, and that is going to do it. So Matt Nass is going to move on to 7-0 with Combo Elves, defeating Thea Steele, giving her first loss with Jund, and in the tournament, in what looks like a very, very difficult matchup for Jund when the Elves player is as experienced as Matt Nass is.
Yeah,